Hello everyone and welcome to the Marshall's Network of Knowledge webinar. Luke and I have had so many requests for information on soil testing, and as a result last year we heard a little bit from Brian Murphy about some of this, and today we're going to look at things that you need to consider before you even see any results. Let's not waste any more time, and I'd like to introduce Amanda Musgrave, who is the Customer Support Officer for New South Wales DPI's Diagnostic and Analytical Services located at Wollongbar Primary Industries Institute. Amanda has worked for New South Wales DPI for over 21 years and is the first point of call within DPI for many people who are submitting or have submitted soil samples for analysis. And today Amanda is going to present the webinar, but we also have Craig Hunt, who is the lab coordinator at Wollongbar as well, who will be able to field some of the lab related questions, if you have any, at the end of the webinar. So I will just give Amanda presentation rights and we will start in on the webinar. Thank you, Amanda.
Good morning, and thank you for listening into today's webinar. The information presented today will be of a general nature, but it's based on our experiences here at Wollongbar. This slideshow will be available as a PDF, so don't feel you've got to write everything down. And as Abby said, I'm Amanda Musgrave and I have Craig Hunt here with me to answer some of the tricky questions at the end. So Craig and I are part of the team at Wollongbar. We're located on the northern New South Wales coast between Ballina and Lismore. We test soil, water, feed and plant samples. We have a team of 12 staff, 8 technical staff, 2 clerical, 1 QA officer and an overall technical manager. We're a fee-for-service business and we're in open competition with other environmental laboratory testing providers. Now, which laboratory should you choose? So this is a list of some of the things that are important to look for when you're choosing a lab to send your samples to. ASPACK and NATA are important endorsements to look for when choosing a lab, much like a hatted restaurant or an award-winning wine. It's something that helps you make your selection. I'll go into a bit more detail about these two in a second. The range of tests. The lab you choose will need to offer tests that will provide meaningful results to answer the questions that you've got. Customer service, this is something that we like to emphasise. It's your first port of call, and what can they do to make your process easier? Here at Wollongbar, we've got a wide range of customers, from individual farmers who submit single samples right out to researchers who submit hundreds. So their needs are quite different, and the customer service personnel need to be there to help you work through that process. I often spend quite a bit of time with the customer initially to nut through the issues and to weed out exactly what it is they need. We are happy to meet the needs of customers wherever possible. For example, for researchers submitting hundreds of samples, it's important for them to receive an Excel spreadsheet of the results in addition to the NATA accredited PDF lockdown version that they can't play with. So we just try and be flexible where we can. Fees obviously are something that are important, and initially some labs may appear to be quite cheap, but just be wary of add-ons, things like reporting fee or a minimum charge. This is something I warn our single sample customers of quite often, because there might be a minimum charge of $100 for a sample where they only want a soil pH, for example. We do offer discounts for larger batch sizes, and there are package deals, of course, and we do specific quotes for people as well if they've got a specific project and want a particular range of testing. We pride ourselves on being an independent laboratory, which means we've got no vested interest in any other product. We're not open to selling fertiliser or anything like that. So you know, it's not to say that labs that do that aren't credible, but just something to be aware of. So now we can talk about ASPAC and NATA. So what is ASPAC? That's the Australasian Soil and Plant Analysis Council. And to obtain ASPAC certification, the laboratories have to demonstrate over 3 rounds of proficiency testing an ability to consistently submit results within an acceptable range for a particular method. These results are compared amongst the participating labs to ensure that industry standards are met. And following completion of this annual series of proficiency tests, ASPAC will publish a list of certified labs on their website, and you get a certificate as well. And what about NATA? NATA is the National Association of Testing Authorities. Now, NATA accreditation is designed to verify the technical proficiency of a laboratory, and this is done through validation both of the laboratory procedures and the staff. And some of these procedures are day-to-day things, equipment calibration, staff training, routine things like that, corrective action procedures. So it's not just about the methods, it's about everything you do. NATA accreditation requires laboratories to operate a quality management system which is compliant with the international standard ISO 17025. The emphasis is on technical competence, and this is based on peer-reviewed process by experts in that field of testing. NATA accredited laboratories will receive a visit to get accreditation from a team of people, and they are experts in the field, currently working in the field, and they'll assess you. So you can be sure that every method that is accredited has undergone rigorous technical assessment. And to maintain our accreditation, facilities must participate in proficiency testing programs such as ASPAC, and they will undergo regular reassessment. And after that, you get a nice certificate as well. So just summarising the difference between the two, ASPAC certification is based on an analytical performance by comparison with other laboratories. It doesn't give you an accreditation, it gives you a certificate in proficiency. However, NATA accreditation means you must operate a full quality management system. This is regularly audited and reviewed, and emphasis is based on the technical validity of your methods and the quality control measures to ensure consistency and accuracy of results at all times. So NATA is quite a rigorous achievement, and so when selecting a laboratory, clients should look for laboratories that have both ASPAC and NATA. Most NATA labs will have ASPAC, not all ASPAC labs will have NATA. Now, which tests should I choose? This is where some planning is needed. You have to give careful consideration to what you want to know and plan your sampling strategy around that. Understand your sample. The results that you get are only going to be as good as the sample we receive. So you need to have a good think about that. If you're going to take a composite sample, for example, be careful not to mix areas of high levels with areas of low levels. Otherwise, you know, you might be trying to assess the nutrient status of an area and you've mixed that with soil that's poor, you're going to dilute the result. So sometimes I say to people it's good to consider taking something from good versus bad so that you can see what's good and see what's bad independently of each other. So troubleshoot the issue. Poor plant growth, for example, there's a couple of pictures there that potassium deficiency in oats, for example. You might want to consider testing both the plant tissue and the soil to see what's going on. It'll give you a good picture. And also seek advice. A lot of the people I talk to, I suggest that they, if possible, can speak to the local land services in their region and to see if there's an expert on hand who can assist them with their particular concern. Having people in the region where the problems are occurring is the most beneficial way, I believe, to help people. And another thing to be aware of is that there are sometimes many tests for the same nutrient. An example of that is Bray phosphorus versus Colwell phosphorus. Bray is a better one to choose if you've got acidic soils, for example. And then you've got totals versus available. So you could choose total N or you could choose mineral N. And that is, again, understanding your purpose and knowing what you want to find out. Mineral nitrogen is the available, what's available to plants, whereas total is everything that's there. And, you know, you might wonder why you'd want to know totals, but it's sometimes a good thing to know everything that's there, which could then become available with changing conditions, particularly pH, for example. So what can I do to make sure I get what I want? Just kind of recapping what I've already said. Have a good understanding of your tests and select tests that will deliver meaningful results. You know, there's no point in getting a whole suite of tests and half of them are not relevant. It costs you money you don't need to spend, and they're not useful. They just complicate the issue. Submitting good quality samples is quite a crucial one. Well-labelled samples help the laboratory to identify everything that's there. Sample integrity, you know, using good, strong Ziploc bags rather than, you know, a freezer bag that's come from the supermarket. The laboratory is always happy to provide, particularly customers who are submitting large numbers of samples. We can quite happily ship you down some containers or some Ziploc bags to facilitate that process. Our Ziploc bags already have a label on them, so it makes it easy just to apply. Good sample identification in the field. Paperwork is another one. Whilst at times quite boring, it is our link between you and your samples. So it outlines your requirements, and it's a good check for us to make sure that what's written on the paperwork and what's written on the sample do match, and that we get the right tests on the right samples. And we love communication here, so please always give us a call or an email if you've got anything that you're concerned about. Here's just a few pictures. What happens to the sample once it gets here? First thing happens is it gets accessioned. So again, we double check paperwork versus samples, and the samples are given a unique identifier, and that is the number that follows that sample through the laboratory. Soil samples are dried in the oven in those trays there, and then they head for the grinder. So that's the process down in the shed, and then the samples head up to the laboratory. And there's just a few examples of some of the goings on and some of our team members here at Wallingbar. Just give you a bit of time on those. So once all the analysis is done, then comes the reporting. Please don't feel you've got to read all this or take notes on the table there, but I have got that written there to make sure I get that right. The limit of reporting is something that can confuse people sometimes, particularly lay people, and just to reiterate that the limit of reporting is not a guideline value or a range for a particular analyte that you must be below or above. The limit of reporting represents the lowest concentration of an analyte that can be determined with an acceptable level of accuracy. The sensitivity of a test method, it reflects the degree of difference between analytical methods that a test method can distinguish. And for a test method to provide meaningful answers regarding changes in the soil chemistry, the values for LOR and sensitivity must be smaller than the values being assessed. So this is just a bit of an example. If you're wanting to look for trace levels in samples, it's important to find out from the laboratory what their LOR is for that analyte. So in this example, the person was looking for cadmium at trace amounts, our limit of reporting here is 0.2 milligrams per kilogram. Well, he did have cadmium in those samples, but it was below our level of reporting, so all we could report was less than 0.2. That's not to say that those levels can't be detected. It is a different technique and different resources may find those trace amounts, and we do that for people here. When we can't detect something, we can then arrange for that sample to be sent away to another lab to find those results that are needed. So how do I interpret the results? We don't provide an interpretation sheet with our soil reports. NADA accredited reports are not allowed to include interpretation and advice. However, the customer service unit will speak to people, and I can provide them with some assistance and some resource materials to help them along the way. Some of the books that I use are shown there, the Hazelton and Murphy one, and a couple of others. I find those really good. I also put people in touch with their local land services region, and where they have people that are available to help. That's fabulous, and they are very helpful because they are in the region and they understand the issues associated with soil test results. People can sometimes also head the private consultant way, and it's just a matter of them providing us with the name of that consultant on their submission form, and we will email their report to that consultant on their behalf. And of course there's the web. It's fabulous, and there's lots of links there. Again, don't feel the need to write all those down. They are available in the PDF document that Abby has put up. But there's some good ones there, and they'll help you weed through some of the issues as well. I've got all of those in my resource cache. And there we are. That's it. Hopefully that's what you can achieve after doing lots of soil testing and interpreting your results to produce good crops and things. So thank you for listening, and that's that.
Thank you very much, Amanda. I'm sure that's really useful to everyone who's listening today. Now we have question time. So Claire Edwards has a question, so I'm going to ask it. Claire has asked Amanda, how long do you keep the samples, especially if we want to check results?
Hi Claire, we will keep them, I think the normal amount of time is 1 month, and on our sample submission form there's a box that you can tick if you want the samples returned to you. So that means we will hold on to them. Before we send them back to you, however, we send you an email to check that you've assessed your report and you're happy to receive the samples back again, and if not, if you want more testing done. So that's kind of a way, if you tick that return box, to make sure that we hold on to them and contact you before. If you say you want them back, then we'll send them back, but if you then decided, oh no, I don't want them back, just dispose of them, we would do that too. So always held on to for a month after the date of report, but can be held on for longer if you tick the sample return box, and then we'll check to make sure there's no additional testing.
And Amanda, just to clarify, what you hold on to is the dried and ground sample.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Just to make that clear.
When we get a sample, the whole sample is dried and ground.
Yep. Okay. So Nerily also has a question, so I'll just, Nerily has said, are there a minimum or maximum number of samples that can be submitted at any one time?
No, not at all. We can handle hundreds, or as I said, one at a time. Sometimes if you've got a limiting factor like turnaround time and you need the results quickly, if you're going to submit a large number of samples, it's nice to have a bit of forewarning in that case. But yeah, we have no limits. We've got the ability to put on additional staff if we need to for big projects and things like that. We've done that in the past. So yeah, no limit there.
Great, thank you, Amanda. And Claire Edwards has another question, which is relating to chemical residues. She said she gets lots of queries about those, and she's asked, do you know where we can get these done?
Yeah, we have a couple of go-to laboratories. If we're doing a whole suite of soil testing, like say people want, you know, the nutrient status assessed and they want heavy metals as well, and they also want pesticide residues, we're happy to take those samples and we will subcontract the pesticide residues out. The only time we're not that keen is if that's the only analysis that's required. Then it's better for them to go straight to the laboratory that does that testing. But farmers who've got old, you know, organochlorine or organophosphate residues, but they also want maybe the basic soil test done, we're happy to handle those on their behalf.
That's good information to know. Thank you, Amanda. Now, I think Luke might have had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. So can you just expand on why doesn't the DPI Soils Lab provide interpretation with the soil test report? Can you just give us a bit more information about that?
I'll get Craig to answer that one, Abby.
Okay. Well, look, the main thing is that because of our NATA requirement, we're unable to offer that service. But also the staff here in the laboratory we're all chemists, professionally trained that way, and we don't have the knowledge on interpreting the results, because there's more than just knowing. You have to know like what the paddocks are being used for, the environmental conditions, past history, to get a good interpretation. So most the best form of interpretation would be somebody on the ground actually knowing what everything's being used for, the paddock's being used for, or something like that. I use a reference, the Coondinnen Agricultural Group, Research Group. They have quite a good paper in their website, Farming Ahead, and they sort of specify that the best person is a person on the ground to interpret those results. I hope I answered your question there, Luke.
Yep, thanks very much.
Okay, I'll just thank Amanda and Craig again for their time and for that presentation, and yeah, suggest to anyone who is interested in any kind of soil testing to get in contact with Amanda early so that you can discuss what your requirements are. I mean, I think the bottom line is that just to get in contact with you and communicate with you, and that's the first step in making sure that you get the results that you need and want out of the lab at Wollongbar if you choose to go with Wollongbar. So yes, thank you once again, Craig and Amanda, and thank you everyone else for attending, and we will hopefully see you again next month, and I look forward to seeing you all online next month. Thanks very much.